Hey guys, it's me, Troy Dellinger, and today I'm going to be talking about Black history because it's Black History Month, and everybody that watches my channels know I'm a pretty big fan of history. I always thought that stuff was interesting. I'm going to be looking a little bit about the Black Civil Rights Movement and just Black history in general. So, we know that blacks historically were treated awfully. Um, it started really with the African slave trade from 16th to 19th century. And I have all this stuff here in my notes. These are old notes I did from a while ago. I did a documentary about the Black Civil Rights Movement. I encourage you guys to check that out. So, blacks historically were treated like trash and not as people. They were kept as slaves. They were forced to pick cotton or whatever else, just as they were kept in the South as slaves. They had no rights. And so we had some historical abolitionist parties come up, like the Republican Party, which was a abolitionist party that seek to free the slaves. Abraham Lincoln was a Republican. He historically was not what most historians would consider to be an abolitionist, but he did not believe in black slavery. He was against it, and a lot of people in the South were very nervous and uncomfortable with him being president because of of his particular stance with that. So we have obviously the Civil War, which lasted from 1861 to 1865. There was a whole number of reasons for that war, but we know that slavery was one of them. Um, so we had the Gettysburg War, the War in New Market, just to name a few of the battles that took place during the Civil War. Then there was the abolition of slavery after the North won, the 13th Amendment of 1865, and then there was the Reconstruction era from 1863 to 1877. In the 1870s, the Southern Democrats returned to power, and obviously the Democrats were a Southern pro-slavery party, and they were not happy about losing the Civil War, and they did everything within their power to basically make the lives of blacks just awful. And they did political intimidation. The KKK movement started, which also murdered blacks and did intimidation to Republicans. And then there was the segregation laws of the Jim Crow era. And then there was a number of other political battles during the Black Civil Rights Movement. Um, Brown versus the Board of Education of May 17th, 1954. August 28th, 1955, Emmett Till was murdered and killed. So we know that after the slavery was abolished and the Reconstruction era, when the Democratic Party went back into power, blacks were no longer kept as slaves, but they were still treated in very poor conditions, which I just mentioned was segregation, um, and just a number of other just ridiculous laws targeting blacks that were racist because of the color of their skin, and they weren't allowed certain privileges that whites had. Um, so continuing into the Black Civil Rights Movement, we have December 1st, 1955, Rosa Parks. January 10 through 11, 1957, Martin Luther King Jr. protests. February 1st, 1960 were the sit-ins. 1963 was the Martin Luther King Jr. I Have a Dream speech, which was very famous. July 2nd, 1964, Civil Rights Act signed by President Lyndon B. Johnson. In 1965, Malcolm X was assassinated. In March 7th, 1965, Selma to Montgomery March, brutal attack from the police. August 6th, 1965, Voting Rights Act of 1965. April 4th, 1968, Dr. King was assassinated by James Earl Ray, I believe is the name. April 11th, 1968, Fair Housing Act signed by Lyndon B. Johnson. So that's all I got. Thank you for watching.